Hello and welcome to Why Medics Matter, a podcast for doctors, by doctors training. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Amie Burbridge.
And I'm Dr. Simon Fruser.
Simon, we are going to reflect on a conversation that we had in our last episode about being an imposter in medicine. Imposter thoughts, imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon, whatever you choose to call it, whatever sits right with you. Any reflections, immediate reflections on what do you think when you hear imposter thoughts?
Healthy.
Okay.
So again, I've listened to quite a few different people speak about this, and the lack of any imposter thoughts makes me worry that you're maybe a psychopath or quite dangerous. Yeah. You know, particularly when we're dealing with life or death essential situations. So I think a healthy dose of, can I do this? You know, as we transition. But what worried me more than anything is when imposter thoughts become damaging, and they form into a syndrome of disruption leading to anxiety. And I think you asked a really probing question, which is, do you start generating imposter thoughts from burnout, or is burnout a potential outcome for imposter thoughts that become pervasive? I think Claire was very clear that the evidence supports imposter thoughts, imposter syndrome being a risk factor for burnout. I don't know, what resonated with you, Amie?
So that comment there that imposter thoughts can contribute to burnout, there's a modifiable risk factor. It's very interesting to me. I actually always thought it was the other way around. And I thought that burnout made you feel worse than you already did and made you start to question everything. And that sort of depersonalization, that shame that comes with burnout. So that is something that I need to probably go away and think about and reflect and really get straight in my mind as to where that sits with me. Because to me, it's not as black and white as maybe the research says. I mean, obviously, who am I to say that? But from a personal perspective, I think, okay. So maybe burnout made me feel like I had more imposter thoughts. I'm not sure.
I suspect it's a vicious cycle. And that maybe starts
absolutely.
You know, lots of things contribute to burnout, the lack of joy in work, the support, all these, you know, chronic sustained excessive demands. And that gets you there. And as I said, perfectionism or imposter thoughts and syndrome is a modifiable risk factor. And I suppose once you're there, if you're not addressing the root causes, but also I think those people, there's still a lot of shame around burnout.
Absolutely.
Which then leads to low self-esteem, low confidence, which I think then probably just fuels the imposter thoughts.
Oh, massively. And I think it would be good to recap on the 5 types.
The
5 different types.
I was scribbling them down.
Yeah.
Can you remember what they were?
Yeah, so perfectionist. So, and I talked a little bit about how I think we are fed to be perfectionists at medical school through that hidden curriculum. And maybe all doctors to some extent would have experienced this, where you ruminate on like a near miss or a minor mistake or an oversight that you hadn't done. So even if the patient had a perfect outcome, you ruminate on that one little thing that could have gone wrong. And it's also the same for, I do a lot of teaching with doctors training or whoever, and you look at your feedback and you might have 99.9% top score.
One good score, and it's like, who said good? And
you're like, right, what did I do wrong? And you ruminate on the negative things rather than the positive things. And that happens in medicine. I mean, you make a mistake and you only focus on that rather than the hundreds of people that you've looked after.
And if I said to you, Amie, just be good enough, how does that make you feel? because that's the sort of mantra we try and teach, but I think it gives people still a bit of an ick.
I think because to be not to own, I mean, to be good enough in medicine means that we may do things wrong, and that may lead to harm for the patient, and that sits really difficult with me. But also, I think we are bred to believe that we're never going to be good enough either, whatever we do. And I think that's what drives a lot of this as well.
Often, I remember speaking to my wife, because I've been somebody who stretched myself to the next level. When I've got a level, I've got to go to the next level and stuff. I remember Elaine said to me, when are you going to know when you got there? You know what I mean? It's like, well, you've got this role, you've got the senior role, what's next? And I think that sort of from an early age, that drive to achieve. And I think going back to what I said earlier on, where people say, oh, just be good enough, it feels like you're to compromise.
Exactly.
And it said with good intent, well, you just need to accept that we're good enough and we can do what we can. And it's often said when we work in a very imperfect challenge system, which I think then compounds that risk and that feeling of the moral distress. So that was one, perfectionism. Can you remember the others?
Yeah, so what you were just describing there about yourself actually is the superhero, the Superman, the Superwoman, who achieves a goal, but it's never enough. So you could be, you head of something. You could be prime minister. You could be, whatever it is.
I might do got a job at the minute.
But it's never going to be enough. You are always looking for the next
level. Next up.
The next level. And you are always, you're quite goal. So it's like these superhuman people are always looking for the next goal. Always trying to do better, which I think is an element of that is good, but it's when it starts to become detrimental.
Or you don't celebrate the win and appreciate where you've got. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
You've sussed me out.
Yeah, it didn't take long, Simon. And then there's the natural genius. So the natural genius.
That sounds like a better title. Can I have that one?
Yeah, I know.
It sounds like less egotistical than superhero.
Yeah. I'd love to be described as a natural genius. It's never something I don't think I've ever been described as. But it's very common, again, in doctors and other high achievers, whatever specialty, wherever job you work in, where sometimes we find things easy and we expect to find whatever we turn our hand to easy. But if we then have to try something new, like a new procedure or how to design a website or how to do ultrasound, and it's tough, it's really hard, we panic because we should know everything. And then we start to second guess everything. Well, if I can't do a lumbar puncture the first time I've ever done it, well, I'm clearly no good. And that can be a big problem. Then we've got the soloist. Now, the soloist is somebody who believes that they should be able to do everything on their own. And actually, collaboration, working in partnership, working in teams is seen as a sign of failure. And actually, that's a big problem in doctors, because if you feel uncomfortable asking for help or you feel inferior asking for help and discourage collaboration, then mistakes can happen. And that can be a big problem within the workspace, a real problem. And then finally is the expert. Now, the expert is somebody who is driven by knowledge and has to know everything about everything within their particular area of expertise within medicine. But as we know, medicine and the knowledge that we accumulate in medicine increases exponentially every day. And it's, you're never going to know everything. But if you don't know an answer to a question, then you feel like a fraud. Well, I should know that. I should know, everything about ANCA vasculitis. And if I don't, well, I shouldn't be here. And again, we can probably, to be fair, I know there's a lot of research says that we focus on one of them, but actually we could probably see a bit of ourselves in all of them.
Yeah. It's not as polar, not as black and white.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I think I just want to sort of finish really with some of the last bits of what I took away from the talk, which was transitions.
Yes.
And if you are prone to having strong imposter thoughts and it does impact you, this is going to really show up more when you take on more responsibility. So if you're in an FY1 and you're going to go into specialty training, if you go to the second tier, or when you become a consultant or in a substantive autonomous practice post, they're going to and as fellow educators, we need to recognize these are really key transition points, recognize some of these mitigatable risk factors for burnout and support. And that might just be having a chat, keeping a diary, and recognizing holding the fort, but trying to put some space between you, as Claire suggested. I think there's so much really.
So much.
I enjoyed. And if anybody wants to find out more, go and have a listen to a more detailed chat with Claire, who's developed a fantastic resource on imposter syndrome and perfectionism. Thank you, Amie.
Thank you so much, Simon. As ever, really interesting discussion. And I hope that today's discussion prompts people to go away and read a little bit more about it, particularly from an educator perspective, and how we can help support our doctors who we mentor, who we coach, or who we supervise. And that's really important. Thank you so much to everybody there who's listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on all of your usual channels. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.